welcome to our live stream today. As always, this is our weekly live stream where we do a weekly reading. I welcome any and all to come in and join. This is Imbria Arts story time. As always, I am Brittany Dotson, aka Imbria Arts. And as you can see by the title image here, we are reading an original by me. I wrote it back in 2013. It is a long novel, so we're only going to be doing chapter 0 and chapter 1 today. But we will be doing this series over and over again, coming back to 11 Kingdoms sort of to fill some of the slots. And also, if people enjoy it, we'll definitely be reading it by request. But as always, this is also a stream that allows people to request things. If you have a story that you want read on the stream, either your creation or something that I can find on the internet, availability for us to read, that we will be happy to do it. If it is a copyrighted material, we will only do the first chapter of them, mainly because we don't want to be going into too many details. But if it is a request of an original thing that is by you, I am more than happy to do it. If it's an original by us, we've done it already with our weekly isekai, or our isekai series. We are going to return with that, another set of chapters in that series in the next few days, maybe a week or two from now. A couple other things I want to get off the chest. Tomorrow on our gaming stream, we are going to be starting the Tales series. For those who don't know, there is a game series called Tales of, and it's very based off of each, story. It's a different title of Tales. But we're going to be starting with Tales of Symphonia, the 2003 game, and we'll be starting with that on tomorrow's stream for gaming. But for tonight, we're going to get on to our story read. Chapter 0 is going to be a short one, and then we might take a break in between chapter 1, part of chapter 1. But we'll definitely take a break between 0 and 1. If you have any questions or want to just chat, go ahead and leave a message, and we'll try and bring it up when I see it. So let's get on to today's story. So let's get to the screen here. Here we go. And we're going to get on to the story. Report. Prelude. Accessing 11 Kingdoms log. News blog. Article 1. Announcement of a new game in works. Sun City Herald. Maya Farnsdale. November 18th, 2064. The world is in awe. One image has been leaked out today from the world's largest corporation, Black Clover Industries. The image is simply a map of the world divided into 12 sections, bringing up fears of the world still recovering from the War of Ideals, almost 20 years ago. When asked about what it is, that the company's spokesman Gail Gyrate is quoted as saying, "This map is part of the large, upcoming video game release from Kenichiro Masaru, creator of the infamous game Blood Pool, which brought the company about $350 billion to date in revenues. While much cannot be divulged at this time, we can say that the players of this new game will not only affect the video games world, but also the real-world decisions of Black Clover and its 127 subsidiary companies." Upon release of this information, the public gathering of reporters stood in shock from the statement. It looks like the company Black Clover Industries, which stands for one of the largest economies of the world itself, is putting its future company in gamble of sorts with a fan base in the video game industry. Gaming blog article 2. Title released. 16-bit gamer, Freddie Paul, March 26, 2065. Big news, gaming fans. The world title of the new Black Clover game by master game creator Kenichiro Masaru, creator of the best-selling game Blood Pool, which led players toe-to-toe with a mastermind, the serial killer, is working on a big, massive RPG, said to have a real-world rewards from the company's own bank account. This game will be tapping into new mind wave-based control system. About what the platform would be for the maker declined to say. But rumors hold that they will not only be using use it at the launch of their home-based Origin 7 system. What does this all mean? Well, at this time, the company is being tight on any information leaking out publicly. But they did announce the recent press release that the game will be an MMORPG with the working title 11 Kingdoms. Now taking the image released upon the first rumors of the game release, we can see what was originally conceived as 12 sections. See the image, Black Clover, World Map, November 2064, GAPG. Of the world, in fact, is 11 with unpopulated areas of the world blacked out. We don't know what's going on, but we can say it's going to be big and will change the way the games are played, and maybe the company states may change the world. Current file listing end. Begin report access. Case of Jamie Eve, aka Fonbin. That is literally chapter 0. It is literally just 2 news articles. This story sort of does a change of perspective as to who's reading what. Most of the story we get Jamie's perspective, so we get first-person view. But we will go in and out in a third-person view, and we'll also get sort of the first-hand information, which is what you get in the first 0 chapter, which is literally just news articles, fake news articles that have been written to talk about the events. Sometimes it's emails, but it's all meant to piece together as one giant puzzle. For those wondering, each chapter starts basically the same. It's a report. You're reading files and gathering the information of what this case is as it goes through. So before we get started with this next chapter, that's sort of what you're going to see in this next chapter. We'll have the beginning with the computerized information, then we're going to go to Jamie's point of view, and then we will go into, I believe, an email at the end of this chapter. It's been a while since I've read this, a couple of weeks. This series will be coming back out publicly on Amazon probably in about a few months. I don't have an exact set date right now for the release, but we will be releasing this again, so you can pick up the title and read it for yourself. But for right now, let's get on to the official story. So, report. Help wanted. Accessing personal logs. Interview case study. Source. Personal journal entry of Jamie Eve. Pain. Oh God, I can't believe this pain. And it's happening here and now. I can't go through with this. Looking down at the curvature of the porcelain, all I can think is, oh God, just let me vomit and get this over with. But the last feeling never comes. Just the pain of the throat. One's nerves are hell of a thing. Stress over one issue too much and your body instantly goes into survival mode and begins to break down. Currently, I was suffering from one such case. My professor from my computer three-dimensional design class helped direct me towards getting this job. And I was able to show off my portfolio as a strong start to my life as a professional artist to a company. In time, I was guaranteed an interview before the local panel for the job. Now here I am, standing in front of a toilet moments before my interview, as my heart races and my stomach pulsates in spasms. I pray to God that I finally do get sick, that I keep it out of my hair, which is so much of me is worn today in an uncomfortable and odd disguise of myself. Why did I go through with this? I stopped my thoughts with an answer of coughing up some slimy liquid, most likely the soda I drank this morning for breakfast. I quickly spit out the taste from my mouth into the bowl. This isn't the first time I felt this way. No. I wish it was, But my mother had me see a therapist in high school when I got this way each year when I started school. It was one of million. I was one of millions that constantly suffered from anxiety disorder, a mental condition that causes the body to shut down when dealing with stress of new things or challenges of one's new life. A disorder that can be treated truly by swallowing one's stress and leaping forward. Right now, I just wish I could step out of this bathroom stall, run home, jump into some of my usual casual dress of jeans and my college sweat jacket, letting my blonde hair with signature blackish blue streak fall as it goes. But no, now I kneel over a porcelain god trying to keep my one good business suit mom bought me after graduation from getting ruined with the little remains of last night's curry dinner. My mom, I'm sure, if she had a chance, she would blame this on my grandmother for my panic attacks. I don't know what happened between the two of them in the past. Every time I've asked, my mother would just tell me that my grandmother was a bad example of a human being. This, of course, made my grandmother the perfect person in life to follow the shadow of. Anyone that could run my mother that mad with just a simple few words or actions would only naturally deserve my worship of them. That person was like a god to my time under the dictatorship of my mother. My early years were spent with my grandmother at her home in South Miami. Every day was filled with trips to the beach, getting ice cream sundaes for lunch. When we came home at dusk, we both would be simply sunburnt and far too full for a healthy meal Mom spent hours on for us. Mom was the manager of a small chain of clothing stores in Miami. She had strict policies on her work as well as home. Dad spent the summers separate from us. He was a sports writer for Major League Baseball, but by no means were we poor. There were always food on the table and money for the clothes and the few luxuries. Yet Mom decided long ago never to live the lifestyle Grandma put her through. From what I learned of my grandmother's generation, they tried to live a life of carefree, work-free community. Mom always claimed this was the issue that is the reason to the day that we have Grandma living with us for so long, as she failed to ever to build a work ethic and make a living. I knew my grandmother since she divorced my, or I never knew my grandfather since he divorced my grandmother. When Mom was still a child, we don't even know if he's still alive to this day or not. But Mom said it was a wasteful way her mother handled life and destroyed their marriage. That Grandma was easily swept up in the moment of whatever cause or fad new to that month. One such fad I came to love of Grandma spoke so highly of was the goth years. Back when Grandma was in her early 20s, she took part in a culture of where people donned dark clothing of Victorian style and wore dark makeup on pale bodies and faces. I never quite understood how a South Miami native could keep a pale complexion, but with pictures she showed me in her youth, she stood out as one of the palest, her hair done in a black and pink bun. It was odd to see the face of a woman I had only seen with tan skin and bleached blonde hair. One time when my mom wasn't paying attention, the younger me found a bottle of writing ink. To mimic my grandmother's childhood, I dyed my hair black. It was a splotchy job and stained parts of my skin on my scalp for weeks. My golden brown hair shone through the patches, and the next day when my mother saw it, she panicked and quickly worked hard cutting my hair, trying to get the black out. But still some spots remained. Some even faded into blue. Weeks later, when I went to school, I was the talk of everyone with my weird hair. Many people called, or once called friends, laughed at me. My therapist, my mother, both blamed this very incident for the cause of my anxiety. While Mom did forgive Grandma, she still holds it against her to this day. To help push the rift between Every few months, I make sure to add tones of blue and black to my hair when I see my mom. I quit seeing my therapist when I went to college in Northern Virginia. Mom kept sending me money for a new one. I would just take the money and use it to buy pizza for my dorm's floor each month. While high school was a pit of nerves that brought forth my anxiety, college was far more relaxed most of the time. Maybe it was the experimental drugs everyone was on, or the fact that I wasn't alone, and the same feeling, but the anxiety was far less in relaxing life of chaos at the collective had at the school. Of course, my monthly purchases of pizza for the dorm didn't hurt in making friends department either. I went to school originally to study history. Grandmother's stories of her goth days had created an interest in the past of days of knights and lore, years of fine Victorian ways. I would spend nights when a party wasn't going on reading the great works of Stoker, Poe, and Shelley. In my second semester, I took an art class on 3D sculpture. I thought nothing of it. I just tried to work on projects that looked like the works of the earlier days of glory and honor. My talent showed through, and I stood at the top of my class. The professor was so pleased with my talents, he begged me to continue working on an art degree. I didn't take much from my professor to convince me. A degree in art was just as bad in my mom's mind as one in history. No, it was worse. My grandmother spent years practicing new forms of art throughout her years with mom. A good agitation for mom would just twist her for the worse. To say I'm vindictive in my relationship with my mother would be harsh. I do love and care for her deeply. Yet the strong force of my views clash too often with her views of my future. She wishes for my success in life and pushes me towards the path she knows what's successful for her. But then my mother's rebellious actions stood in opposition of Grandma. So I guess the will to agitate one mother is a trait in my family. I'm sure if I did a long research into my family history, I would find the same argument from mother to daughter generations before. I had no clue what my future held for me. I was quite sure my study of history would lead me to a desk job or as a teacher of history myself. These days, however, teaching of history is more directed by the United Nations on what can be freely taught. The restrictions felt cold. We were warned about learning of the early years of our country, but still, we learned the underground tales of dusky, old, musky books. I knew there were little future in the study of history, other than people, perhaps as a teacher. So, at least an artist could be some common use and sense in the world. So I agreed to take my professor's offer and switch majors. The road was an easy one to follow. While one would think art class is just sit in front of a piece of paper and draw, granting a professor to randomly hand out grades wasn't quite the right way to place things. On top of understanding the different styles of art and how art affected history itself, there was the understanding of form, movement, color, shadow, and even negative space. It was hard to sit there and understand the makeup of space. It got my head spinning. We had not only to look in the world in view and form and shadow and color, but also we had to understand the need for nothing. This was far more vital subject in my sculpture class. Sure, anyone could beat a lump of clay and claim it's art, but a true artist knew how the lump of clay worked in the environment it was placed, how the space around it affected the clay's form. Doing this virtual art environment made it easier. We could build the sculpture surrounding along with it. The class was a tech nerd's dream. We got to use the latest technology from Black Clover Industries, which was originally developed medically to have cybernetic limbs react to victims without the luxury of two arms and legs. A person would strap a collection of bindings across the body and attach a nerve pack to the back of their neck. The pack would detect the mind's electronic pulses and muscle tensions of the body, reading with great accuracy the full movements of the mind wants the body to do. While recent adoptions of medical equipment can be surgically implanted, for the school's art class purposes, we used the slightly out of date models, which looked more like a sadistic's dentist chair. The school added a display screen and a helmet, which let the students truly get the physical feel of physically being in the world they developed. The program granted access to the user to choose the materials, the colors, and the basic computer programming functions put it into play. The last year I had, they even developed a way for the creator to animate their sculptures by either using vast collection of preset movements or by simply moving the creation through a form of digital puppetry that the computer would learn and would store for future uses. In time, I would not only learn this, but find I have great skill in using the software. The fact my professor couldn't let this go unnoticed. Once the very company that crafted the equipment started to hire some new major video game, to say one could go through the past years that I did, and few not know who Kenshiro Masaru was. Hell, for that matter, it was rare to find a person under the age of 40 who didn't know the man. That was the world's dubbed king of video gaming. The master of many genres of games. He was a rock star of the video game world. And here I was applying for what I thought would be a position as a staff artist to work under his direct tutelage. I was an average gamer at best, finding enjoyment, as most girls my age, towards the graphically heavily vast story of RPGs. Then the strong, heavy first-person shooters that seemed to dominate the market that constantly stream of them. Much of my childhood love of Dark Ages could be relived in RPG games. But my busy class schedule most of the year and busy summers spent helping Mom on one of her stores kept me from really getting to play the ones that some of my classmates would rave about in breaks that we took during long hours of studios. The job I applied for was simply a character designer and an environmental artist. I had the feeling that if I had landed this job, it meant I would have to get a visa to travel to Masaru's Kyoto studios. But my first interview was over the web. One lasted a whole 10 minutes. I found out the company was taking a major game development using the games designed by Masaru, yet having different regions of the world, designing different sections of the game for each region. Much in the same way, a game would be gathered to make much in the same way a group would be gathered and to make a large mural, each placing their artistic mark on it. So too stood this game. While the basic world and designs are creation of Masaru, most local designs and creatures, environments would be designed by the team of artists in a given region. As it stood, I was in the region of Eastern North America. And now it's come to my turn for a second interview, a face-to-face one. One where they will take apart my work from college, showing my inexperience at the job I'm now applying for. All the while they poke at my personal life by dissecting me with words of uncomfortable staring. Oh my God, they're going to judge me, aren't they? A quick spasm in my throat confirms this. The choice of local light music, which is a simple way of saying we play the top pop songs that don't have curse words, and we won't play rap. This makes my uneasiness even worse. For at stations like this, I would hear playing each time I face the uncomfortable situation. Perhaps on the day where my nerves weren't being tested so badly, I might like a tune about how a teenage girl found her true love, and a rhythmic, upbeat from song from the top artist named Angela Mestique, a known drug addict seeking to sell a new record to get a new high. Still, no hope of getting out of this situation, I guess. My therapist would tell me to visualize myself in a friendly environment. But all I see in this real world running in making short of my peaceful place, turning it into a new parking lot to a theme park dedicated to my greatest fears. And I'm being pushed by a crowd through the turnstiles and straight to the scariest roller coaster of my life. I just hope the vomiting starts on the way down, so less the ends up on my good blouse. A sudden disruption of the station music is heard as the intercom breaks in, calling a name. Jamie Eve. Jamie Eve, please report to conference room B. Oh God, why is it me? I cry out. I swallow a breath of air, flush the toilet, and make my way out the bathroom. It's time. It's time for my execution by interview. I grab a paper towel and wipe what liquid remains on my mouth. I hope they don't fault me for looking 3 shades of pale green. Tossing the towel, I open the door to the bathroom, half ready to take steps and flee. Hold on. I'm going to take a drink here. Yeah, that's the plan. I can run from this job. Then what? I could go home. Okay, what about making a living? Well, I could always work for my mother. What the hell am I thinking? That's just what she would want me to see from her rebellious daughter, to come crawling back to the same job she has, the same boring life. No, I need this job. It's a way to make myself. It's a way to become independent. I turn myself around and start to slowly walk towards the conference room when the speaker calls my name again. Jamie Eve, please report to conference room B. I pick up my unsteady pace, passing the secretary, placing the call, and heading on to the door marked conference room B. As I place my hand on the door, I inhale a little breath and let it out slowly, opening the door to display a large table with 12 seats, 9 of which stand open. Oh God, which seat do I sit in? If I choose the wrong one, then I won't get this job and I will be stuck working with Mom. Why did I choose to go through with this? Who am I kidding? I'm not. My train of thought is broken with a sudden welcome from one of the 3 people in the room. This being a well-dressed man who couldn't be but 10 years older than me. The picture-perfect businessman of the 1950s with a clean pressed suit and tie and a sly smile. Welcome, Miss Eve. We're glad you could join us today. Thank you for inviting me, I reluctantly reply. I turn to look at the 3 people that are sitting there. One at the end of the table, each with a seat separating themselves from each other. The man in the clean-cut suit with slick black hair by some products surely designed by chemicals unknown to myself, if not most of mankind. His hair held in a solid, firm form, almost as if he wore a piece of plastic painted on to look like hair. Sitting in the middle at the table's edge. Guess he's the man in charge. So, to his left sits a woman in a nice blouse and jacket combo. She looks a bit older, and she is by far the least in shape of the group. As I look at her, I merely feel a spasm in my throat close, as she has mostly eaten bear claw in front of her, on a napkin. Nearly a pile of folders and papers with one bearing my name is sitting on top, several red marks already placed on it. She shows her age through stress, showing a few wrinkles and a bit of gray hair. Next to her is a guy who doesn't look like he fits in with the room, sporting a 2-day beard at least, and wearing a t-shirt that can what I can assume is a coffee stain that reads that he tries to cover with a gray sports coat. If anyone screamed their art expert in the room, this was him. His shirt started with the joke, why wasn't the art dealer in debt? I'm sure the answer was on the back, proclaiming he was out of Monet. But one of those really bad jokes, and an art lovers would tell in the free time. Well, Miss Eve, here is Miss Blanche from our HR department, Mr. Hauser from our game design department from San Francisco, and I'm Frank Williams. I'm from Black Clover's Industries legal department. The slick-looking man proclaimed. So, the clean-cut guy's a lawyer. Should have known. With his sly smile and classy suit, I had never had the fortune to require the need for one in my life, but the few winters I spent with my dad, I recalled him bickering about how you could always tell one by the way they dressed. Only 3 kinds of people dress that way, he said. First was politicians, the second was lawyers, and the last were con artists. Dad went on to say that meant that they also acted and did the same things to other people. They would just change their title of their job to trick you into believing them in their latest scam to separate you from your money. Now he must say, your work is good and meets what we're looking for, the effect of the overall game. And to add to you that you come with a little glowing recommendation from your professor, stated Mr. Williams. Your portfolio shows the kind of work we are looking to add. We just have some basic questions to go over before we go ahead with the next steps. Quietly and shyly I reply, yes, go ahead. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Mr. Williams, without changing his straightforward deadlock gaze on me, sits tapping his pen back and forth, letting his eyes pierce at my mind to dig out the answer to the question. Of course, it would be that question. Rule number 1, when anyone sits in a chair for a job, ask them where they want to be. And the answer is always elsewhere. Away from this job you have me at, either higher in the company's ladder or doing something completely different. How does one go about answering it? Do you go down the route of the company loyalties and flat out lie about not having a grander dream? Or do you speak about your greater vision of a better world? Better you have one bright future that the company may be able to add their twist into. A maddening question indeed. Right now, every fiber of being wanted to answer it with myself running and screaming from the room through the quickest possible way. What was I thinking? How could I go through with this? My work is no better than the next guy. How high is this office? Maybe I could use my portfolio to smash the window and dash out into the parking lot and flee from this mental anguish. No, I have to sit here and answer the dumbest question in all of history. Worse yet, I have no idea how to answer it. Oh crap. Are they staring? Of course they're staring. I've been sitting here rambling in my mind like a lunatic on a single question. Just answer it. What if it's wrong? Answer it. Okay. I hope to design art that truly affects the future of the world, through its use, I state. What the hell was that? Benefit the world? How will my designs for a game benefit the world? Why not just become a sculptor or painter then? Why choose game design? Video games don't normally affect the world as far as we know it. A reply comes almost instantly from the lawyer, and it's no surprise. I can't believe I'm so stupid for saying that. His words are making such a clench in my stomach. But I try to keep my answer going. Take a drink real quick. Well, I hope to one day be part of a game that changes the way the world looks at itself. I mean, games are more like a good book on how it affects the players emotionally. I'd say, nearly passing out, while I reply with a nerve wracked tone. I was far too focused on my nerves and constant shaking that I didn't notice the game designer gain a slight grin on his face. A sigh, sighing out a breath of air, I peek and see the grin on his face. Crap. Did I just I just did something completely embarrassing. I mean, how can video games change the world? They're just a form of entertainment used to calm the stresses of people's meaningless lives. Well, I think that answer like that speaks well of your ideal of the world and how the industry can affect it, the game designer lets out. Breaking my thought process, I nearly knocking me to the floor. Did he agree with me? Having looked through your work, I've given your references, I think you would make a great addition to the team of our latest project. Utter shock hits my face as the designer continues praising me. What the hell's wrong with him? Mr. Hauser's words are good praise for you, but I do have some questions before we proceed any further. I've I have a few questions, and I believe from Mrs. Blanche as well. The lawyer continues, kicking my hopes over the cliff that they had just climbed. I knew it was too good to be true. Here comes the big but that will always have me stuck behind a cashier at Mom's store till I'm mercifully shot to death by the criminal wanting the money from the register. Are you willing to relocate if the company provides accommodations? Miss Blanche states, watching my facial recognitions like a hawk. She watches my eyes roll back, with my chin soon to follow their direction. I guess. So, but I don't quite understand. What do you mean by they provide accommodations? What Mitch Blanche means is due to the nature of the game we are hiring for, Black Clover needs to keep control over its designers to ensure no information is leaked before they are approved by the marketing. For that reason, they are setting up a live-in community for many new employees. The lawyer broke in, interrupting the now gape-mouthed Miss Blanche, and the words went on to have me mimic her facial expression. What did they mean by this? If I get hired, will they lock me in a room and watch my every step? What about my rights as a human being and a citizen of the United States? Given since the UN calls most of the shots these days, but still, we have many laws that protect us, I thought. It's not the first time I've read about such work-based communities as a regular thing throughout the world, but it never caught on here in the US. This is mainly due to the high depression rates found in such complexes that were far often led to bigger issues. I can tell by that look you stand a little shocked by the situation. It's set up merely to make sure the employees are well cared for, as well as build a greater teamwork by having most of y'all living in an environment together. Miss Blanche tries to reassure my quizzical facial expressions. The area is merely monitored to ensure the game info doesn't leave. And the way for that is by having the computer system controlled at both work and home for you all. While the system will keep track of you through the Neuralink device that will let you connect to the system, which the company will place on you. My expression goes from confusion to shock from the statement of the lawyer. To reassure me, the game designer turns around and shows me a small white box with small wires attached to the base of his skull. He pushes a button and the box falls off. The only evidence of it having been there is a small white splotch and 4 pin-like marks where the wires went in under the flesh. It hurts at first, but it allows the creator greater concentration. and it reads their actions better than the devices you used in college, states the designer. My mind focuses back on the device we used back in 3 years of art college. The device had a small plug like thing, which would be placed at the neck to sense the slight electronic signals that would run from my spine to my arms and legs, letting the device read one's motions such digitally. We got taught that the device designed in medical practice would transfer those charges and be transferred to devices such as robotic limbs that would react to the real thing. This box the designer wore could only guess that had a stronger connection through the wires, reading closer to the source with the signal. I can't tell you much, but the current setup is slated only for those that work in the game. The company's working on a less evasive design for public use when they play the game, but the devices helps not only with issues you previously experienced in college, but with the help send signal to the brain in creating a false sense of touch and pain. The body senses things that in previous games could not bring the player into an in-depth experience of the game. The designer continues to explain. Isn't that a bit too extreme? To ask a new employee to let their employer surgically attach something to their body? Even if it's removable, I don't see why anyone agreed to such thing. I can't shake the creepy vibe I get from the device that my opinion slipped out openly. It's good to see you speak your mind, Miss Eve. However, if you choose not to go through with this, I'm afraid our company will have no interest in you. I must say, as one of the few companies these days that have the power to employ someone with no experience, like yourself, I wish you the lawyer goes on, but I find my gut reaction forcing me to interrupt him, as I see him placing his copy of my paperwork down and making a mark about with his pen. I'll go through with it. I just want to be comfortable in that it won't be used in ways to track me all the times and control my thoughts or something like that, I ask, as the nerves start to visually show in my body shaking. Black Clover, despite its size and holdings in many world governments and industries, has no interest in the mind of a fresh out of college artist. Nor do we care what you do on your own life. But the project we are hiring for needs to be kept secret. While our competitors may not have the means to compete with us financially, leaking the info could cause a rival group to pirate our software and ideas to make their version of the work be done in a way that we are working to protect the project that our employees working to do. The words the lawyer spewed out didn't comfort my feelings one bit. I fully understand the need to stop the release of pirating movies and games that have been brought down many companies recently. Fewer people want to work in an industry that doesn't pay because their stuff is stolen and leaked out to the web. World government measures to halt this became a joke, and here in the U.S. became the second constitutional law to be repealed, as if it began to choke off the net from all public opinion and views, such as well. A lesson taught strongly in my high school civics class, and still much debated in public, but to look at the small devices that is being implanted in my neck that detects me trying to leak info. It's like something out of an old science fiction movies I will watch with my grandmother. Say I get the implant, then say I leak information. What would happen to me? I ask, partly out of curiosity, and part to settle my rattling nerves. You would be legally sued to the point that it wouldn't matter if you ever had a job again. The debt on your head would never let you survive. That is, of course, after the possible jail time you would serve for committing piracy. I was surprised by the cold, blunt answer from the lawyer. The way his answer came out told me that he had either the case well locked in or had the courts already well in the favor to win no matter who stood before them. Even the living embodiment of Jesus Christ would face the wrath of his legal might. No wonder Black Clover stands the largest company ever built. Their legal team must be the coldest, sharpest, and best in the world. The lawyer continued. Look, it's not like the company isn't providing you with a lot of luxuries here. We offer you a plush suite, very good salary, the best health care in the world, plenty of vacation time as well. We just need to make sure when you come to work here, you can be trusted, and the best way to do that is to monitor you. The device does more than just monitor you against theft. It also helps connect you stronger to the game design and the game itself. It also monitors your body's health and keeps you safe while you work in the game. The designer added, keep in mind, these devices were originally intended to help people with medical issues be able to walk or use arms, something that a medical science couldn't do for countless years. The Neuralink lets paralyzed people live life again after independent individuals. It's a remarkable piece of technology. The designer tries to speak up the benefits, if there are any, of the Neuralink device being added to my body. I'm not doubting the good it could do, but surely some question the bad can be done with those. Oh God, why am I fighting this so hard? Shut up, and tell them what they want to hear. Your worries are a good one to note. I noticed the mostly silent HR woman speak up. I too worry about how far and what issues these devices may bring to the company. At this time, the precautions the company has taken on both this and the earlier version you've used in the past have proven to do a little more than lightly shock the user during electrical storms. So I can assure you all efforts are in place to assure no problems are set to arise. And if they do, the company is set to take care of you through health care we provide. My tensions ease a bit with her words. Something about Miss Blanche comforts me in my fears. She reminded me of how my mother was when I was young and feared the dark. Her words comforted me greatly. I could sense that she must also have that calming motherhood instinct to form those words. Okay, I give. I agree with the vice. I just want it to known, and I just want it known. I'm permitted to, and I told you so. If something goes wrong, I shyly state. I'll let it be on the record, replies the lawyer, who lets out a shy grin. Yet I almost let out a giggle as I watch him actually make a note of after saying that. Well, unless you have any other questions, I think we're done here. Welcome aboard to Black Clover Gaming, Project K11. I'll be sending you a package in a few weeks. In it will be all the papers you need to sign, the info on your work location and suite. We also need you to go in for a checkup for the health care to be active. We will provide you with, calmly replies the HR woman. I think you'll be involved with Team Onyx. I'll send you your information to a friend of mine to watch over you while you work with them. And I'll look forward to working alongside you, the designer replies as I shake his hand and proceed to go down the line from there. Oh, and Fridays will be Nerf Wars, so ammo up. I walk out of the room with my nerves under greater pressure than they were when I went in. Quickly, I dash for the bathroom and hit the stall. This time, I didn't have to wait. The vomit comes, and the pain burns my throat. As I strive to choke on some of the air between spasms, I can't take the pressure of the interview. How good will I be as an employee of Black Clover? A tear escapes my eye as the pain of the convulsions in my chest hit. I got the job, so why? Why do I feel this way? I should be excited about my body, should be excited, but my body is reacting in a fit of repulsion. As my body begins to spit out the last remains of my liquid breakfast, my gut continues to convulse in rapid nature, and I go to my bag to reach for a stick of gum to clear the taste from my mouth. I accidentally knock against a small black box in my bag as I search for the pack of gum. Sigh. I guess it would be a good idea to tell her how now before she calls me. Sticking a piece of gum in my mouth, I push aside the sides of the digital asset or digital address system box, or DOS box, as the geniuses would later dub them. A holographic screen pops up, displaying my email, and then brings up my contact list. As it begins to make a call and makes my now empty stomach turn even more. There's no one I want to talk to less now, but her way of tracking me down will make things far worse. I hear the tone give way to the click of the signal opening, and I speak. Hi, Mom. File source and accessing leaked material. Black Clover report. K11 hiring. K11 hiring practices and standards. Report compiled by Charles Thick, President of San Francisco branch. Date February 11th, 2065. As the work for the company's latest gaming project, K11, begins, due to the size and nature of the project, we need to make strong effort on hiring talent that can meet the demands in the overall size of the project. R&D is working on the hardware and developing new systems of Neuralinks that will be set to bring all the artists, coders, and testers in the upcoming game production. The use of the links is a given need for all employees working in these fields, and will be the reason for that information to be, or the reason that is informed to be, and will be a reason that is informed to the applicant upon interview. To make things more comfortable, we will be offering a house to house along with all the company hiring packages. These actions for security purposes and such is a legal requirement. To ensure the game is to be produced at an expedient rate, we're having each of the slated games 11 divisions worldwide work on the creation of their part of the world, with a central division working on the remaining factors. Central employees will further be held to keep in a secret location so that tampering with the work will not be affected and they can remain unbiased in decisions of the separate divisions. The general game mechanics are being handled by Master Masaru and his game staff. Each future employee will be offered pay equal to mid-range of the corporate rate in their given division, with more skilled employees acceptable at a higher rate. At this time, we are only seeking coders and designers. The company plans to hire near future testers and operatives to work in the game, possibly choosing from a core collection. At this time, my headquarters will be taking the lead on the project, and promotional actions will be housed through these offices and our office location in South Los Angeles and Las Vegas. Attaching a list of credible schools, even some officials to pull future staff from in this hiring, along with all information on future development or documentation needs for applicants to agree to when signing a contract with us. Any questions should be directed to my office or to your human resources department. Thank you and good luck in finding the next crop of employees. Charles Thick, Black Clover Gaming, San Francisco branch, President. News report. Neuralink system. Gaming gives back. United News Network. Reporter Colleen Dalton. For the last 50 years, Black Clover has shown amazing power that they can bring the world to the world of gaming, and more so in the acts of business. Back in 2023, The makers of the small game studio decided to invest their money into other companies before the long company became a powerhouse not only in gaming but oil, technology, clothing, food, even shipping. The average person hasn't even noticed how much their lives are changed by the workings of the greatest businessmen like Charles Dick, who, may, who many say is the face of the corporate powerhouse and the rivals many governments worldwide. But there are few people who take note of the changes that Black Clover brings, such as young Miss Esther Veldman. In 2054, at the tender age of 7, Esther was a victim of a horrific traffic accident. The driver of a semi truck dozed off behind the wheel, and the truck turned into her family's van, killing her father and leaving poor Esther paralyzed from the neck down. For the next few years, Esther couldn't walk. Her mother had to quit her job and spend all day caring for her daughter, that had no hope of ever being like the other children. For 10 years, she lived in a state where she had no control over her own body's functions. Enter Black Clover technology. Black Clover designed a better reaction-based controller. Came across a way to simulate the damaged link of the girl's nervous system with a system of braces and wires. Esther Veldman is now taking her first steps she hasn't taken in 10 years. While the system is still buggy, it lets a young woman take on tasks that her mother, even Esther herself, thought would never be able to take part in again. But Esther isn't alone. Black Clover even designed ways for paraplegics to regain use of their limbs formerly that were taken from them. The system takes a small neural link that senses the electronic impulses of the brain and strains the muscles to cause cybernetic limbs, or, in the case of Esther, a cybernetic brace system that wraps around the unresponsive limb to move and react in ways that mimics the movements of the human body perfectly. For today, Esther is taking a small step for herself, while Black Clover is taking a giant leap for humanity. For United News Network, this is Colleen Dalton reporting on this medical miracle report and accessing next report. So ends 11 Kingdoms 0 and 1. Like I said, the chapters are a bit long, so 1 took a lot of time here to go through. Let's go over a few things. I came up with the title company Black Clover in 2012, 2013, before the manga started with the same name. So I don't know when the idea of the title Black Clover came to the mangaka for the series, but the title, I already had logos and stuff designed with Black Clover's title in part of the book. So yeah, people will be like, oh, there's anime there, because I do have an anime connection. I mean, that was something developed there. Neuralink is basic science fiction. Was basic science fiction. I have to use was in this sense. Some of the stuff talked about in this chapter back in 2013 was only available in science fiction or science novels, or books that was technology underway, but it wasn't fully developed. It's here. The Neuralink system is a real thing, at least in the medical sense. We, of course, also adapted VR a little bit more these days. So a lot of the elements of the basis of the story has occurred or is occurring now. So a lot of when I wrote this back in 2013, 2012, a lot of this stuff was still kind of new science. And it still is to this day. As the story progresses, as it goes on, it's going to change. Black Clover, for those wondering, Black Clover is very much designed, this story is very much Google or Amazon of our time. I'd say probably Google a bit more, maybe Amazon. It's hard to say. Both of them have that play. We'll go into more with the War of Ideals because that'll come into play as the series progresses. Same with UN being in control. America is no longer really a powerhouse in this series um, that it currently was, and we'll get into that. But I mean, this is basically an introduction to Jamie and who she is. She is the blonde in the cover image here, and the other female on the opposite side is her gaming persona, Fawn Midden. So it is literally the same character split in two. Um, and with the cover design, also you have DC because the story takes place in DC for the most part. But it also takes place in a fantasy world. So if you see the reverse, it's a fictional world below it, and the red water. So we're going to be getting into it. I think we'll do chapter 2 next week as well. I think I'll be doing most of this series for the next few weeks, on and off, until I have a few other stories to go through. Um, this is a long one. There's 30 chapters in all. Well, 32 technically, including the prologue and the epilogue um, of this series. Since this is an original, I can go through the full series. But in the next chapter, we'll be introduced to her teammates. We'll be introduced to her work, and we'll officially get Fawn's identity be built for the first time. So we'll do chapter 2 next week or for our stream, unless we get some requests for a story elsewhere. And then in 2 weeks we'll do our isekai chapters. We'll do 2 chapters from there. So next week I'll see you again for chapter 2 of 11 Kingdoms, and let's see. Tomorrow we have Tales that we're going to be doing They'll do Tales of Symphonia for the first time. So it'll be our first stream of that. And on Saturday we will be doing a drawing request. I believe it's another masking request, and I think it's the last masking request of this year that we have. Most of the ones remaining are just individual character requests. I thank you all for joining in, and I hope you all had a good day. As always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Definitely share the video if you liked it. If you want to read the novel 11 Kingdoms, I have it in full currently on Honeyfeed. You can read it, and it's also going to be available for digital and also print on Amazon next year. I've been holding off on it. It originally was released digital on Amazon. We pulled it to do some edits. It's going to be coming back out with a new look and the proper edits done for it to also go to print with Amazon. It's one of the titles that Amazon kind of jumps on me to continuously bring out. A couple other companies have been jumping on me to get this series out because it's a sci-fi novel, and it's very much a good sort of adventure story. But yeah, it's a long book. It's 800 and some pages long. So we'll get to it more next week. Until then, I hope you all had a good evening, a good night, and a good year.